All right. Before I get into the larger topic of at least my methods for corrosion mitigation of reproduction swords, I did want to take, it's probably going to be several minutes, to discuss the traditional methods and tools for caring for a Japanese style sword. Now, this is my original cleaning kit that I acquired all the way back in 1980 to take care of my first shinken. And over the next years, I've learned, shall we say, a couple of different rituals for doing so. Am I going to demonstrate those? No. Frankly, because I don't feel qualified to. Don't consider myself any kind of master expert, anything like that. There are much better resources out there, or what you're personally being trained if you're studying a Koryu using shinken. And, well, obviously the point of the next chapter is I don't really use these tools much anymore because I found some that work simply better for me in doing the job. Does that mean this is useless to me? Am I just hanging on to it for nostalgia's sake? No, there's still some certain tools, components of this kit that I still find useful to this day. And if you are studying a Koryu that is using and caring for shinken, you're going to need one of these. Also, if you're simply an enthusiast of Japanese style swords or swordsmanship, yeah, you probably should get yourself one of these and learn how to use it for the sake of learning those methods, preserving that history. So it's not without value. And they're not terribly expensive to pick up. You can find them online for, 15, 20 bucks. Also, certain sword dealers, manufacturers might send you one with the kit. So one thing I want to do is take a look at the difference between my original kit from 1980 and one I've acquired recently, because yeah, there's some interesting differences in terms of what's in the box. So let's go ahead and pop them open, take a look at what's inside, what to do with them, and what I still find useful today. Okay, I'm going to use this Musashi kit that I got for free with one of my Gold Series swords, and you could buy them separately on Amazon for less than $15 right now, as a representative sample of what you're probably going to find in that price range compared to what was in my original kit from 1980 or what you might acquire or stock in your own kit. So it comes in a fairly nice box, but yeah, I'm not crazy about the brand labeling. Not very traditional. Inside, speaking of not very traditional, basic instruction flyer. Doesn't walk you through any of the traditional rituals, but tells you simply how to use what's in the kit, so that could be useful. Now, most of these boxes are subdivided, and on the smaller side of the division, in this case protected by a little block of foam, and the little box is a small bottle of unspecified Choji oil. So I don't know what the content of this is. Now, this could be today often a blend of mineral and plant-based oils, or traditionally speaking might be all plant-based. What kind of plants are we talking about? Chrysanthemum and or clove. And you can tell by the smell, which is one of the reasons why you might want to use it, especially in the ritual cleaning practices, is the aesthetics, the way it makes your sword smell. So I'll still occasionally use it for that. But as a protectant, I found, well, you've got lots better choices available to you today, pragmatically speaking. Why? Because, well, vegetable-based oils are not your best choice for long-term metal protection. They might have a little bit of acid content, and they do dry out, and when they dry out, they kind of get rubbery. So the recommendation for using this oil is you use it very, very sparingly, only a few drops on the blade, and then wipe almost all of it off before you put the sword away. You're not going to slather it in this kind of oil and leave it soaking. And therefore, you're not going to get that kind of protection. So if you're storing your sword in a humid climate, and not cleaning it very frequently in some cases, you're going to potentially get corrosion. Or if you're doing cutting of, well, wet or other corrosive targets, and maybe you didn't get everything off, or maybe some of it transferred down in your saya in resheathing and could propagate corrosion that way. We'll talk about that in future videos. Yeah, this is just not going to give you nearly as much protection as so many other choices on the market. It's not a traditional thing to say, but pragmatically, yeah, I just don't use this much anymore at all. All right, what else is in the box? All right, next thing you're probably going to find, often in a little Ziploc bag, is an Uchiko ball. We're going to come back to that because this is one of the tools I actually do still put to use on a fairly frequent basis. Now, in this particular kit, you also get an adorable little hammer, theoretically for driving out your Mikugi pins, but refer to my video on stuck, stubborn Suka. Yeah, most of the time what I'm going to use is a pin punch that's fit to the diameter of my Mikugi pegs, and, well, yes, a significantly larger mallet. Now, you might have a sword that's put together very traditionally, very delicately, and this might do the job, but I've never found it does it for me, at least in my uses. But it's kind of a cool thing to have. Now, in the bottom of the box might be a variety of cleaning cloths. In my original kit, it came stocked with some very nice, thick fiber. I don't know if it's rice or mulberry paper. And this is the original stuff, and you can see it's yellowed a bit on the edges. And this is held up over time, and I still do occasionally pull this out. But you can use any kind of soft cleaning cloth. Speaking of which, what's in the modern kit for less than $15 in comparison? Well, this is where things get a little interesting and kind of disappointing. Little plastic box is a small, well, cotton cloth. So again, you could use pretty much anything that's not abrasive and is going to do the job. And then in the bottom, in another bag, if I can get it out of here, I was hoping for rice paper, but that is clearly Kleenex tissue paper. Can you use tissue paper? Yes, but it just seems to be disappointing that they put that in a cleaning kit. All right, let's get back to that Uchiko ball. Uchiko ball, for me, the most useful thing in the traditional kit. It's basically a short stick with a ball made of layers of fabric that are thoroughly impregnated with talc powder. And the talc powder serves as not only a mild abrasive for cleaning, but also a desiccant. It can help suck up any moisture on your blade that can lead to future corrosion. So dual purpose. Why do I go to it? Well, we're going to take a look at that. And for today's little brief non-traditional demonstration, I'm using the blade from my Murasame L6, the blue-themed shiny sword that we looked at recently, that came to me returned with, yes, some significant rust patches propagating on it. And because I wanted to preserve the finish on this blade, I went to this. Basically, without getting into the ritual, how is it used? Well, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Now, do you have to take the sword apart like this to clean it? No, not every time. But in this case, I did it specifically, and the reason I'd recommend you do it is to check to see what's under the habaki. Stuff can build up under there and start to corrode. So yeah, in this case, I'm checking and cleaning underneath the habaki. Also gives me an opportunity to take a look at the condition of the nakago and the suka core and the fit of everything else. Do I have to do that every time? No, but in this case, yeah, I went ahead and completely stripped it. Now, rituals may vary, but for me, starting at the bottom of the blade on one side, I will tap the ball gently about every inch or so and just work my way up the blade. And this is kind of soothing in itself. Flip it over and do the other side. I don't have any rhythm. What that leaves, though, as you can see, is a residue of that talc powder. And if I'm taking my time, it allows that powder to sit on the blade for at least several seconds. And again, it acts as a desiccant. It could be absorbing any moisture on that blade. Now, what I'm going to use is one of the high fiber, either rice or mulberry paper, I'm not sure, from my original cleaning kit. And what I'm going to do is, starting at the bottom, is I'm going to basically work it and work it off at the same time. Now, if there are any areas that are extra gunky from cutting, or have some mild scratches I want to try to deal with, or, yeah, rust stains I'm trying to mitigate, I might focus a little bit more there. I might put a little bit more on, okay? And give that section just a little bit more. But in the end, what I'm doing is eventually just wiping it off. Now, if I look at the cleaning cloth, in this case a white one, there's a little bit of gray residue that's come off. If I was using a modern abrasive polish, that would be black, and that's metal that's being removed by that polish, which is great for getting off scratches and rust spots and things like that. But if I want to preserve the original polish, in this case also the original hamon of the sword, yeah, that's going to potentially polish it away. So it might not be something I want to use. And since I want to preserve the hamon on this sword, I'm going to the Uchiko and being careful, gentle, taking my time. Now, if I'm cleaning my sword with Uchiko frequently for years and years and years, is it going to basically do that in terms of badly repolishing the blade, polishing away the original surface? Yeah, it will. But it's a whole lot more gentle than some of the other options that we'll talk about in the chapters to come. Now, once that's done, what you're left with, theoretically, is a dry blade. So at that point, you'd be putting a couple of drops of choji or whatever oil you're going to use on it, and then wipe it down the blade and wipe most of it off if you're talking about choji. But what I'm using is a cotton cloth, in this case an old piece of t-shirt, that I've already got saturated with my favorite blend of modern oils that we'll talk about in the next chapter. If I need more, I'll drop some more on there. And basically what I'm just going to do, again, working from one end to the other, including underneath the habaki, is just give it a nice coat. And make sure everything is cleaned off and also has a nice cover, which I can feel, of that oil on the blade before I put it away. And that's it. Now, in the next chapter, we'll talk about, well, modern tools, substances for doing the job that may be more effective in terms of lasting protection, or, well, if you're already dealing with rust stains that are propagating, how to deal with those and get those off. But this is where we get our conversation going, as usual, in the comments. If you have any questions about this, if you have any methods or rituals that you've been trained in yourself, favorite tools and substances that you use for the job, and how those work, let's get our conversation going. Otherwise, until the next chapter, hopefully I haven't upset the traditionalists too much. But thanks for watching, following my journey, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, sharing the videos, adding to our conversation, and I hope to see you back for the next chapter, which is corrosion prevention and mitigation using, well, more modern options.